All right, time to go live one more time, twice this week. Isn't that kind of crazy? Let me just load up the Facebook window so I can see chat if you guys are going to be chatting. So if you want to respond, you can put stuff in there. I thought I would share a little bit about what I've been doing with the 3D printer. Now, I've had it now for about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks or so. Had some issues with it that I managed to fix. Was very proud of myself. And been doing a lot of printing out of spinners and little widgets and little things and knickknacks and things around the house and some Star Warsy type stuff. But I'm still kind of figuring out, different little tricks and things. Like, for example, I saw somebody had shared a time-lapse video of their print. And that got me thinking, all right, so how do you do that? So I thought about I could just mount the iPhone. But I figured, we could probably do better than that. So I started looking into different ways that people are doing it. And one of the things I came across was a lot of people are taking advantage of the Raspberry Pi, or even better, the Raspberry Pi Zero. So I've got a few of those laying around. For those of you that aren't familiar, here is one of them. This is a Pi Zero W. That's actually the one that does the ad blocking for my entire house, and it jumps onto my Wi-Fi network. It blocks ads across the entire board. I did a different video on that one, so if you want to learn more about that, you can find that at Teach42. But that's a $10 computer that also has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all that built into it now. So I bought the camera that goes along with it. Camera costs about $25, I believe, and thought I would try and make a time-lapse camera for that. And had two purposes for it. One, because I want to show off some of the stuff that I'm doing, and I think time-lapses are kind of cool. The other thing is, though, I have the printer down here. I don't know how well you can hear it right now, but it's in the basement, and more often than not, we're hanging out upstairs. I don't usually hang out here when I'm not working. And when a print job gets done, I want to get it off of there and get the next one started right away so it's not just sitting idle. However, that usually involves coming downstairs or trying to listen to whether it's stopped or, and so on, and, a lot of up and down traffic. So I thought if there was any way to have it be a live webcam, then I could actually just pop in on it on the phone and see whether it's finished or not, and so on. So, to that end, I started getting, trying to figure out how do I use the Raspberry Pi as a webcam. That got me down this road of using something called RPI Cam, for the Raspberry Pi. It does a great job, and I'll get more to that in just a minute. But the other piece was trying to figure out how to position it just right so that it would take good video on the 3D printer. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You could just put it on a tripod, but the trouble is the printer itself, the print bed, moves forward and backwards. And because of that, it won't make a clean video of it looking like it's getting built straight up. It'll be back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, which would look disconcerting. What I found out is the better way to do it is to actually attach the camera to the printer itself, either above it and aimed straight down so it's always right above the print head, or, even better, on the bed. So as the bed moves, the camera moves. And to that end, I actually found, of course, a mount that would do it. And how do you get that mount? Well, you 3D print it. So this is the one that I found on Thingiverse, and it is a Raspberry Pi camera mount specifically for the Prusa MK2, which is what I have. So you can see the camera sits right there in this picture right here, and then the whole thing attaches to an arm, which attaches to the corner of the 3D printer, and that way as the print bed moves, the camera moves with it. What I thought was kind of interesting is you print out all these parts and it gives you a list of, a hardware list of the nuts and bolts that you need to get. What I thought was really interesting, though, is this one right over, if you look at the very bottom of this picture, it's this part in particular. Actually, I should have loaded up so you can see it. This attaches to the swivel where you can rotate the camera back and forth. However, in order to do it right and keep things tight, they wanted the nut to actually be inside the plastic. So this is the first time I had to do this, where you print out, there's actually, in the model, there's a hole, a nut-shaped hole inside this piece, completely enclosed in plastic. And at the 5mm mark, you are actually supposed to pause the print job, move the print head out of the way, insert the nut into there, and then click unpause, and it will wind up covering that up with plastic. So then you actually have the steel nut inside embedded in there. And there's a couple different ways to do that. One is the print file that you send to the printer. You could actually edit the code, and after a certain mark, right before it starts printing in, you know, that whatever layer that is, let's say layer 83, you can just have it pause the print job and move the head out of the way automatically. Or if you just watch the printer, when it gets to that point, you can see it on the screen, it's about to hit the 5mm mark, you can just literally hit pause, change the axis, move it out of the way, stick it in there, and then hit unpause, and it will just continue on its merry way. So long as you do it fairly quickly, you don't need to worry about the you know, ink or the plastic, whatever, getting all over the place. Anyway, point is, first time I had to do something like that. It's also the method that you would use to change the colors mid-print if you wanted to. If you want to do layers of blue and then green and then white, or print something where it's all solid color on the bottom, but then has writing in a different color on the top, you could do the same sort of process. I was pretty jazzed about it. And the net result is it wound up working pretty well, and this is what I now have attached to my printer. You see that in blue? That's the camera with the camera cable coming out of it. And then I actually right now have the Raspberry Pi Zero-W duct taped underneath the arm. I'll have a more elegant solution down the road. Just haven't gotten around to doing it yet. So as you can see, as the printer is moving forward and backward, the camera mount moves with it. So this is what it looks like via I have an iPivo right now aimed at the printers just so you could see it in perspective, but this is what it actually looks like through the camera right now. This one right there. So this is using the RPI cam interface. What it's basically doing is when the Raspberry Pi boots up, it automatically loads this program called RPI cam. And what it will do is it will just basically load up, activate the camera. And it will also load up its own web server. So I get to it by going to 192.168.0.blank/HTML. And when I go there, it loads up this web page that we're looking at right now. And in this web page, I can go through the camera settings if I want and change the quality and all these other different little details. I could also schedule things. I could turn the camera on and say when there's motion detected, then go ahead and start recording. And then I've got these buttons down here: record video, record image, time-lapse start, and so on and so forth. Or I could just watch it. I could turn everything else off and I could just watch this. And I can even zoom in a little bit so you can even see it a little bit better. So this is through that camera. And if you notice, it looks like the print head is moving forward and backwards. But if you look closely at the wall, it kind of looks like the wall is moving forward and backwards. That's because the bed is what's actually moving, but the camera is mounted to the bed. So the camera and the bed stay fixed in space and move with it all. So the net result is, though, when you do a stop motion, what you are recording isn't moving backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. It stays fixed, so it looks like it's just getting built straight up. So I actually did this with a not quite 30 hour, about 24-hour print of a, I'll show you it, of a little Star Wars theme thing. This is the first thing that I printed. It went overnight and so on. I will just say, one thing you need to keep in mind is if you're doing a time-lapse of a 3D printer, you should try and keep the lights on. Because there was about a 3-hour window where I accidentally turned all the basement lights off, not even really thinking that then the camera wouldn't have much to take a look at. But here is where, here is what that looks like. Hold on one second. So this was my my time lapse that I recorded with this just the other day. There it is. There's the lights out. Don't worry, it gets brighter again in just a minute. This is actually about 6,800 photos. I had to take a photo every 10 seconds, which took around 6,800 photos over around a 24-hour period. I downloaded all of those. There's about 2 gigs of photos. I downloaded them onto my desktop. I used an app called Time Lapser that did a fine job. It recorded, turned all of those photos. It took about maybe 30 minutes to create this video out of it. And then the video was still about 3 minutes long, so I brought it into iMovie, made it quadruple the speed, and now it's down to about 1 minute. And you can see it comes out pretty darn good. The print wasn't actually perfect. That's all right. I got a few little things to tweak. But on the whole, the time-lapse video worked out really nicely. And even better, as things are printing, I can, from my phone and from my computer, I can always just keep an eye on the print job and know when it's going to finish so I can get the next one started. I haven't taken the time to patch this Apache server through so I can look at it externally. I'll do that eventually. So even while I'm out and about, I can always kind of pop in on it and see how it's doing and so on. But I gotta admit, it works, and it works great. Total cost of materials, about $30, give or take. So to have a spy cam, if you will, a little Raspberry Pi with camera, maybe a little bit more, maybe $35. And then the printed material. So all in, including the plastic, including the nuts and bolts, I'd say maybe $40, and that includes the Raspberry Pi and all that. And that is a little webcam that you could, in theory, stick anywhere. I mean, if you ever want to have more security cameras all over the place, yes, you could buy them online. But if you want to just get geeky and do it yourself, totally can, and this thing works great. Totally blown away by how well it works, and having an absolute blast with it. So a lot of fun, pretty interesting, and if you have a 3D printer, this is a really easy project to do, and it's a fun way to actually use the printer, and obviously with the videos, it's kind of a fun way to show off the things that you wind up making, right? So I'm going to put in the show links. This is all going to get uploaded over to Teach42. I'll put in links to the Raspberry Pi, to the camera, to the Thingiverse actual, the model that I used, the camera mount, and also the software, the RPI cam control, which does have really simple directions for how to get the whole thing pieced together. But that's about it. Kind of a fun project, and hopefully in a not-so-distant future, I'll even give you a URL. You'll be able to go to teach42.com/3D printer and voyeuristically tune into whatever I happen to be printing at that moment. Not that I really think anybody really wants to, but why not? Sometimes it's worth doing just because you can, right? This is the tinkering phase, but we'll get to the better stuff later, right? All right, so with that, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up. Just a quick little Friday broadcast, having some fun, and now I got to get things cleaned up so I can take my kid to Scouts soon enough. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with me. Good to see you, Patty, and I don't know who else is watching. I can't see a list of all the people who are watching, but thanks for hanging out, and take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.